Hi, and welcome. And today we're talking about manifesting solutions at work. And it doesn't matter if it's an issue between you and another employee or you and your employer, it all works the same. So, are you someone that's in a situation at work and you need a way out? Or you feel you're on eggshells and you see a problem on the horizon? Or maybe you just want to learn more. If you said yes, then this video is for you. So I'll tell you why this happens and what you could do about it. But first, hi, I'm Urban Magic Hopkins. I make manifesting videos that focus on health and wealth to you every single week. Why? Well, because I just feel like it adds value to your life the same way it has done mine. So, why this happens. It happens because of how you see the problem. The problem exists only if you observe it. So there are disciplinary actions, sure. There is terminations and separations, absolutely. However, is it truly a problem? And if you see those things as a problem, then you fall into this cycle that the employer wants you to be in, which is to be obedient. And that's not going to happen over here, all right? But when you look at the way that you see a problem and you see it as an opportunity, then things start to reflect in your behavior. You begin to handle things a little bit differently. You move a little bit differently. And then eventually, over time, things could have a possibility of working itself out. So here's an example. There's one employee that was new to an organization, and the older employee was supposed to transfer duties between the two. However, since it was a mom and pop, things just weren't defined. This employee was having so many issues from the older employee about these transference of duties and knowledge, so much so that things started to go wrong. So this person would see it as a problem, that the duties aren't being transferred the way that person one had expected. There's nothing written down on a piece of paper. Traditional transfer of knowledge just wasn't there. And for person A, who was a new employee, it was such a problem for them, and they just couldn't move past it. Until one day that they decided to outgrow the problem. And then so once that person decided to outgrow the problem and recognize this, that there's no one way to be, especially if it's not written down. If your job doesn't have it written down, then there's no one way to be. So then he began an attitude of gratitude in working with that person. And then so putting it into perspective was that this was a transfer of duties. There was no expectation to have a long-term working relationship. So then the other person realized, hey, I could just play nice, go through the turmoil of learning this job. And once I do, and there will be a day, and the day has come, that this person would be free from this person and can just go to a hey and bye relationship, right? So then they were making a long-term problem about a short-term issue, okay? So you want to put that into perspective like this person. The problem wasn't a problem unless they thought that it was a problem. So you have an opportunity to reframe the way that you see certain things. If you saw something traditionally as a problem, see that as an opportunity, because there's no such thing as perfect. All right. And so everything is energy. And what we know about energy is that it vibrates. So you'll have equal ups as you would have equal downs. And then so the downs are just opportunities to help you elevate back up, because the universe is always testing you. So I have my law of attraction program that is out for sale. This is really good if you want to master your life. Basic principles that I transfer from my head to yours to guide you so you could create the life of perfect health and wealth that you deserve. I was able to transform my life from being 87 pounds and being sick and losing the ability to walk to now being an athlete and being at the best shape, both physically and mentally, of my life. And it was because of principles from the law of attraction. So you can find that link in the description of the video. Be sure to stick around, because at the very end of this video, I have a panic copycat code that will help you whenever you're in a crisis. So be sure to stick around for that. So here are some things that you can do. So the first thing is take advantage of predictability. And predictability is something that a lot of people miss. And though it may be a boring superpower, it is a very powerful, bold superpower that people can start to use to their advantage. And the thing is, if you use something like a power, then it is a power. And you can use predictability like a power. So for example, anytime you're organizing people, gathering them, new people in a new space, and maybe even developing a program or new hires at work, things of that nature, well, there's a phase that we go through every single time whenever people are organized. So, and those 4 stages are forming, storming, norming, and performing. So whenever you're gathering or new employees, there is an opportunity to see something new happening. There are 4 stages that are going to happen that I could take advantage of. While they are forming, that is letting you know, hey, there is a new person coming in that's going to have to be paired with someone that's older to transfer those duties of work. So we know that there is a storming phase of sorts that normally comes. So then what can you do? Well, the things that you could do are infinite. So you could have a nice session. You could put out conflict trainings ahead of time. Who knows? But the second thing on my list for what you can do on manifesting work solutions is developing a Captain America mindset. Now, I chose Captain America because it was the most relevant reference that I could think of that probably most people would know. But when you think about the character Captain America, he was built on a couple of things. And he was built on the fact that he has morals, values, and ethics. And whether you agree with his moral values and ethics or not, for the sake of the movie, he has the proper morals, values, and ethics that people started to see Captain America as someone that was chivalrous. So then therefore chivalry came. He was someone that was honest. And then so therefore honesty came. But the traits that he has that I want you to pick up is that he did not bend on his boundaries. Anytime they tried to get him to do something, he would say that's not right, and he would stick to his beliefs. Conversely, what would happen is that people would build respect. His enemies had a lot of respect, and the same works for you. That whenever you stick to your boundaries and you say no whenever you're supposed to, that inadvertently builds respect from the employer back to the employee. It is a cat and mouse game, a law of attraction principle. You stand up for what you believe in, and behind the scenes, and I know because I teach executives that they will be impressed with you behind the scenes. They just will never tell you. Executives normally have big egos. So the second thing you could do under the Captain America mindset is don't over-identify with work. And there's times whenever you're just all in and you never get out and you're always at work and you go to all the work events and you can't see past your own hand. And the reason is because you never actually get out. So one thing that you could do if you find yourself in a work situation is that you could actually take a trip. Getting out and seeing how other places do things, or even see what other places think of your organization or your establishment, it may put into perspective. I know with the last job, I needed to get out, not knowing that I needed to get out, but I got out, and then I was in a different environment and got to hear the opinions of my previous employer. And the things that bothered me became laughable. Some other things you could do is go to webinars or seminars. It's good to get a refreshing mindset, another perspective on things, because the way that you see things is only one way. All right, so the moment that you've been waiting for, which is my panic copycat code, and it is around the sense that business requires logic. Okay, so you get in a panic, think about this. Business requires logic. So the type of logic that we're thinking about is reason. And I think about reason as a person. Is there a reason for you to freak out? Okay, so if you're a good employee, you do what you're supposed to do. This is a trick that works. I always do this. So a story was, one time I did not think payroll would be approved by one of our board members. No reason for me to think that, other than the chairperson was a monster. But No reason for me to think that. I remember calling legal, and legal asked me the question of, what was your reason? What is your reason to think that? Why would you think the board would not approve of payroll? And though I could think of many ill things that have happened, I could not think specifically of a reason why they would not approve payroll. So that simple question of her asking me, well, what is your reason? And then me not having a reason was an epiphany. So anything that relates to business, before I freak out, I will ask myself the question of, what does reason think of this? Is there a reason for me to be freaking out or panicking? Since I'm a good employee, the answer is usually no. I do my work, but liars are lying. If you actually look into it, I'm innocent. I have nothing to worry about. I have no reason to be worried. And I will say that up until I calm down and everything is fine and I feel so much better. So that is the panic copycat code that you have, that I shared with you, that I use a little bit more than I'd like to. All right, that is the end of this video, and I will wish you good luck and make solution shift happen. Looking forward to see you in my next video. Bye-bye for now.